The bedroom still smelled like her shampoo. That stupid honey lavender blend she insisted on ordering in bulk because stores never carry the real kind. The windows were cracked open. She left them that way on purpose. I know it. She hated the cold. She knew the draft would hit my side of the bed. She knew I'd lie there, freezing, without pulling the blanket over. The message was still there. I hadn't deleted it. I hadn't even opened it. I read it through the lock screen like it was a cursed spell that only worked if I didn't tap it. Staying at Clay's for a few days. Need to clear my head. Don't bother. My thumb hovered above it for almost an hour. I watched the phone go dim. Tapped it again. Reread it. Let it fade. I did that 16 times. I counted. The first thing I did wasn't cry. It wasn't yell. It wasn't even calling her. It was opening the fridge. She left the almond milk cap off again. Half the bottle had soured. There was also that kale salad she never ate and the champagne we were saving for after the wedding nerves pass. I threw the salad out. The champagne's still there. I stare at it like it's laughing at me. 3 weeks ago, she was texting me Pinterest links for table decorations. Now she's sleeping under the same roof as the guy who once sent her a playlist titled Songs to Get You Back in My Bed. She showed me that message. We laughed about it over tacos. I guess the joke aged poorly. I sat on the kitchen floor for what must have been 2 hours. The dog bowl was still full. I didn't eat. I didn't drink. I didn't move. I just listened to the old pipes breathe in the walls like they were mourning something too. Paige had a thing for symbols. Every big moment in our relationship had to be marked. She tied a string around my wrist the night we moved in together. So it meant we were anchored. The string's still in the drawer, along with receipts for floral arrangements and half-written vows in her handwriting. I opened the drawer. Read the first line of her vows. I used to think safety was boring. Then I met you. So what changed? What changed so drastically that she had to sleep at Clay's house to clear her head? Did she pack pajamas? Toothbrush? Did she rehearse how she'd word it while I was in the shower? It's not the sleeping there that haunts me. It's the driving there. That slow, deliberate decision between the front door and the ignition. The part where she looked back at the hallway we painted together, the photos we hung, the couch we fought over at IKEA, and still chose him. She didn't even slam the door. Just slipped out. Like a draft. Like a ghost. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. I just laid there, flat on my back, staring up at the ceiling where the fan made slow, useless rotations like it was mocking the stillness of everything else in my life. Her pillow was still warm. That part shattered me. Not because of the temperature, but because it proved something I didn't want to admit. She hadn't been gone long. She didn't leave in the morning. She left late. Probably waited for me to fall asleep on the couch. Probably tiptoed around the apartment like a guest in her own life. I imagine her holding her shoes in one hand, phone in the other, tiptoeing past the kitchen where our just engaged magnet still holds up a photo from last fall. She left her laptop, not even tucked away, just open on the desk, half a Spotify playlist still showing. I don't know what possessed me to look, but I did. I clicked around like some rejected ghost trying to find a hint that maybe, just maybe, she regretted it. What I found instead was a draft email. Unsent, unaddressed, just sitting in her Gmail like a landmine. Hey Clay, I'm nervous. I'm still not sure this is the right call. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm destroying someone who never actually hurt me. It was dated 5 days ago. She'd been thinking about this for almost a week, all while pretending to care about cake flavors and font choices for seating charts. While we laughed about how the future feels so close now. 5 days. So she knew. She knew and still let me kiss her forehead goodnight. Still let me rub her feet while she complained about bridesmaid drama. Still let me call her mine without flinching. I closed the laptop and unplugged it. I don't know why that last part mattered, but it felt like cutting off some sort of life support. Like her side of the apartment shouldn't have power if she wasn't in it. By morning, her friend Macy texted me. Nothing about Paige. Just a generic, hey, just checking in. You good? That's how I knew Macy knew. They always know. I waited 3 hours before responding. Did she tell you where she went? No reply. An hour later, her Instagram went private. I wasn't blocked, just demoted, like I'd become a potential liability. A loose thread to cut before everything unraveled publicly. I scrolled through her text thread. Thousands of messages. Silly memes. Grocery lists. Her, I love you, typed in 8 different ways. I stopped at one from exactly a year ago. No matter what happens, don't ever think I'd run back to someone who treated me like I was optional. So what am I now? I spent the afternoon cleaning out the car. Her hair tie was still wrapped around the gear shift. I left it there, tossed out an old receipt, found one of her lip balms under the passenger seat. I sniffed it like some pathetic loser in a breakup montage. It smelled like cherries and betrayal. The weirdest part came later. I was trying to distract myself by doing laundry, folding her clothes even though she was gone. That's when I noticed a small note tucked into the pocket of her hoodie. A handwritten list. Things to take. Charger. Jeans. Birth control. Backup key. In purse. There were check marks next to all of them. The last item? Ring box. Leave it. No check mark. She didn't leave it. It's not in the drawer. It's not on the nightstand. I checked twice. She took the ring with her. And suddenly, that was worse than if she'd left it behind. Because it meant she wasn't done. Not with me. Not with this. Not yet. I didn't notice it at first. The front door. It wasn't locked. She always locked it. Always. Even if I was 2 steps behind her. Even when we were just walking out to get the mail. She said she had this irrational fear of someone sneaking in and rearranging her life. Her words. So why wasn't it locked? It sat there, barely shut, not even clicked into place. A sliver of air coming through like it had been left that way, intentionally. I stood there for a full minute, hand on the doorknob, trying to make sense of it. Was it a mistake? A message? An invitation? It felt like a setup. I pulled it closed gently and turned the deadbolt with that slow, careful pressure people use when they're sealing off something dangerous. Then I just stood there in the entryway, staring at the seam between the door and the floor, heart pounding like someone was on the other side. I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. Or maybe remembered. Later, I finally did something dumb. I called her. Not texted. Not emailed. I actually hit the green button, knowing full well she wouldn't answer. She didn't. It rang 5 times, then cut straight to voicemail. No greeting, no hi, it's Paige. Just cold, digital silence followed by a beep that felt like it punched me in the throat. I didn't leave a message. I hung up, then immediately regretted not saying something. Anything, because even the sound of my voice might have reminded her that I still existed. That I was still here, spinning inside the wreckage of something she walked away from like it was just another errand on her checklist. I was halfway through pouring myself cereal when my phone buzzed. My chest caved in so fast, I nearly dropped the milk. It wasn't her. It was Clay. Unknown number. No contacts saved. Just a message. You don't need to keep calling her. She's safe. Respect her space. I stared at it for a full minute, and then again for another 5, as if it might suddenly make more sense. Then I laughed. Actually laughed. A short, broken thing that came out like a cough. I never told Clay I called. So either she told him herself, or he's checking her phone. I didn't reply. I took a screenshot and sent it to Macy. I don't even know why. Maybe to bait her into finally saying something. Maybe to see if there was any ounce of decency left in someone from her circle. Her response came 30 seconds later. I'm not supposed to say anything. Please don't involve me. I can't say anything. I don't know anything. Just not supposed to. Like they had a plan. Like this had always been coming. At 2:14 a.m., I woke up in a sweat, convinced someone had been in the apartment. Nothing was moved, but the air felt wrong. Heavier. Like someone had stood over me and whispered things I couldn't hear, but somehow still understood. I checked the front door again. Still locked. But the envelope on the table, the one she'd left behind with our names written across the front, had been flipped upside down. I know I didn't do that. I remember seeing it upright all day. I would have noticed. My chest felt like it collapsed inward. Was she here? Was he? I opened it again, just to check if I'd missed something. The photo was still there. The note on the back still said, maybe in another lifetime, P. But now there was a second line, faint and hurried, written in a different pen. This wasn't the plan. I didn't sleep again. My body laid still, but my brain wouldn't stop replaying that message. This wasn't the plan. Over and over. Not in her usual handwriting, either. It was rushed, tilted at a strange angle, and I swear I could see a smudge where the ink dragged like someone wrote it standing up in a hurry, maybe even with trembling hands. At 5:37 a.m., I did something I told myself I wouldn't do. I started digging into Clay. Until then, he'd been a name, a vague ghost from her past. She only mentioned him twice, maybe 3 times, always with that dismissive shrug like he was old wallpaper in a house she'd already repainted. But now I needed to know who Paige had disappeared to. At first, I found nothing out of the ordinary. Instagram with 0 posts, private account, maybe 6 followers. LinkedIn page said he was a freelance event promoter. That's a career now, I guess. Google brought up some tagged photos. Him in a leather jacket at concerts, blurry shots in dark clubs. Always holding a drink, always smirking at the camera like he knew more than the people taking it. But then I found a Reddit thread. Not his account, someone else's. A post from 8 months ago in a Portland relationship advice group. It wasn't about Clay by name, but it was about a guy who matched his exact description. Same job, same friends, same club. And the post read, he invites women over for reconnection and convinces them to stay a few days. Then their phones go off. They say they're figuring stuff out. It's like a pattern. Same routine. Happened to my sister and her friend. The poster had only 1 post. No replies. No follow-up. Deleted account. I sat back and stared at the screen. A pattern. Paige always said Clay was manipulative. That was the word she used. But now I wasn't sure if she meant emotionally or something else. Something practiced. I called Jules. I didn't want to, but I had to hear someone else's voice. I needed grounding. He answered on the second ring. What's going on? He said groggy. I told him everything. The message, the ring, the flipped envelope, the second line, the Reddit thread, the email to Clay. I talked for 10 straight minutes without breathing. Then he said, Elwood, I know this is going to sound insane, but this doesn't feel like a breakup. It feels like something's wrong. Yeah, I whispered. I think she's in trouble. Or worse. I went to the closet and grabbed the hoodie Paige always wore when she felt sick. It was folded, untouched. But when I checked the pocket, something was there. Not another note. A small USB drive. No label. No cap. Just the plain metal of it, cold in my fingers. She'd hidden it. And I knew that whatever was on it, she hadn't meant for Clay to find. I didn't plug it in. Not yet. I wasn't ready. Because once I opened it, something about this stopped being a breakup and became something else. I must have sat staring at that USB drive for an hour. It was just sitting there on the coffee table next to my cold mug of coffee and the unopened mail like it was nothing, like it wasn't a potential key to whatever twisted thing this was turning into. It didn't belong in our apartment, not in our life. Paige wasn't the type to keep secrets, not in that way. She journaled, over-communicated, texted in full paragraphs when she was annoyed about the thermostat. But a hidden USB in the pocket of a hoodie she hadn't worn in months? That was intentional. It took me another hour to convince myself to plug it in. I grabbed my old work laptop, the one that wasn't connected to anything important just in case. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe it was nothing. But my gut told me otherwise, and I'd stopped ignoring that voice ever since the night she vanished into Clay's world with nothing but a cryptic text and a ghost trail of clues. The drive had no name, just untitled, no folders, just 3 video files and 1 document. I opened the doc first. It was titled, If Anything Happens. The text was brief, just a few lines. Paige's writing, raw, not poetic like her vows or whimsical like her recipe notes. This was something else entirely. If you're reading this, then I couldn't stop it. Or maybe I lost my nerve. I'm sorry, Elle. I never meant for you to be involved. Clay doesn't forget. He doesn't forgive. I thought I could fix it before you knew. Please don't go looking for me. Just disappear. I'm so sorry. I froze. What the hell did she mean? Fix it before you knew. What'd she gotten involved in? What did Clay have over her? My hands were shaking when I clicked on the first video file. It was recorded on her phone. I could tell by the slight shake, the poor angle. She was in a dark room, maybe a hotel. She looked tired, pale, eyes glassy. Not crying, but the kind of stillness that comes after crying so hard there's nothing left. She didn't say anything at first, just looked at the camera, chewing the inside of her cheek. Then she whispered, I think he knows I'm recording. Cut to black. The second video was shorter, maybe 10 seconds. Same location. Paige again. Her voice, this time a bit louder. He said he would ruin you if I didn't come. Said he knows where your parents live. Elle, I had to go. I'm so sorry. That's when I stood up from the desk, heart slamming like it wanted out of my chest. I looked around our apartment like Clay might be hiding in the walls. I double-checked the locks. I pulled the curtains. I unplugged the Wi-Fi. The third video was corrupted. It wouldn't play. I tried to recover it, but nothing worked. Just a frozen first frame. Paige's face, hair pulled back, eyes swollen and red. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. Instead, I sat back down, and for the first time in 3 days, I cried in a way I didn't know I was capable of. Not loud, not dramatic, just leaking like something inside me cracked open and gave up holding anything together. Because this wasn't betrayal anymore. This was something else, something deeper, something that made the word fiancé feel ridiculous and small. I didn't know where Paige was. I didn't know if she'd left willingly. I didn't know if Clay had her, or if she had gone back to him to protect me. But I knew this wasn't over. And someone was lying. Because if Paige wanted me safe, she would have never left that drive. Unless she wanted me to find it. Unless this was her version of screaming through the silence. By the next morning, I wasn't angry. I wasn't even heartbroken anymore. I was terrified. The kind of fear that doesn't shout or shake. The kind that just quietly drapes itself over your shoulders and whispers, you don't know what's happening. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had wandered into a movie halfway through a different life, a different Paige, a different version of everything we'd built together. She wasn't the woman I asked to marry me. Or maybe she was. And I just never noticed what she was hiding behind that soft laugh and those carefully constructed smiles. I decided I couldn't do this alone anymore. I needed answers. But not from her friends, who were now fully ignoring my texts. Not from Jules, who meant well, but was ready to call the police and cause chaos. I needed someone who'd known her before me. Someone who didn't belong to our curated world of Pinterest boards and color-coded RSVPs. So I called an old number she once gave me, almost a year ago. Her old roommate from college, Sienna. We'd only met once, briefly. But Paige once told me that Sienna was the only person who really saw what happened with Clay. When I called, I expected a deadline. She answered on the second ring. Elwood, my heart dropped. Yeah, sorry. I know this is random. No, it's not, she said immediately. I was wondering when you'd reach out. Something in her voice was already trembling, like she'd been waiting. We met in a quiet coffee shop in a town 30 minutes out. Neutral ground. I don't even remember the drive. Just that I kept picturing Paige. Not the Paige I proposed to, but the one in the second video on the USB. The one whispering that Clay would ruin me. Sienna looked older than I remembered. Not in a bad way, just tired. There were lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. She didn't waste time. She told you she dated him, right? She asked. I nodded. She didn't tell you everything. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small manila folder. This is what I kept, in case she ever needed a witness. Inside were 3 printed screenshots. Old texts. Paige's name at the top. The messages were frantic, fragmented, sent years ago. The kind of messages someone sends when they're scared but too proud to call the cops. He won't let me leave. I said no. He laughed. Sienna, I think he followed me home. I saw his car. If anything happens, it's him. You know it's him. She placed the folder down, hands trembling slightly. After she finally cut him off, she blocked him. Got therapy. Spent a year putting herself back together. And then she met you. She never thought he'd find her again. I was shaking. So why go back? Sienna looked at me with this painful softness. Because he didn't find her, Elwood. She found him. I stared at her like she had just spoken in a different language. That makes no sense. She felt guilty. Said she left something unfinished. Said there was something she had to undo. And that's the trap with people like him. They make you believe you owe them something. She didn't, but she believed it anyway. We sat in silence for a long time. Then Sienna leaned in and said something that chilled me more than anything Paige had said. If she's back in his house, she's not safe. I drove home with the windows down and no music. I couldn't breathe otherwise. My mind kept flashing to the third corrupted video. Why had it been damaged? Did someone try to erase it? Was that the final piece she meant for me to see? When I got home, there was a message waiting on my voicemail. Not from Paige. from a number I didn't recognize. Male voice. Calm. Slow. You should stop digging, Elwood. Some things aren't yours to uncover. I played it twice. Then again, it wasn't a threat. It was a promise. There's something sickening about knowing you've crossed a line you can't uncross. That moment where your curiosity becomes something colder, like obsession, or maybe grief pretending to be control. That's how I felt staring at the corrupted video file, heart pounding, stomach twisted into knots. I didn't want to see what was inside, but I had to, because whatever Paige tried to tell me, she couldn't anymore. I spent nearly 3 hours searching online for file repair tools. Most didn't work. One finally did. Not completely, but enough to extract the footage frame by frame. The audio was broken, full of static and strange gaps. But the image? The image was clear enough to change everything. It wasn't a video of Paige. Not directly. It was footage from a laptop webcam. Grainy. Dim. It had that eerie greenish tint you only get from low light and desperation. Paige wasn't in the frame. At least not at first. The room was small. Too clean. Like a place prepared for a specific purpose. There was a table with nothing on it but a notebook, a bottle of water, and a phone. The kind of room where someone waits for permission to speak. Then Clay walked into the frame. That was the first time I saw his face clearly. I'd seen a couple of old pictures online, always filtered, distant, performative. But this was different. He looked still, almost rehearsed, like he was aware he was being recorded, but didn't care. He leaned toward the camera, not aggressively, almost casually, like it amused him. And then he said her name, Paige. He said it like it belonged to him. The sound cut in and out after that, but I could make out pieces. You always think you're smarter than this, but you're still trying to save people who don't even know they're in danger. I don't know who he was talking to. Maybe her, maybe someone else. Maybe me. Then came the part one can't stop replaying. He lifted her phone and scrolled through it slowly, like he was showing it to the camera deliberately. My name, my face, messages between us. Do you think he'd still love you if he knew everything? Cut. The rest of the file was blank. Just static and timestamp errors. I sat frozen in front of the screen, sweat dripping down the back of my neck. What was he talking about? What didn't I know? What was Paige trying to tell me? Not just about him, but about herself. I looked back at the document from the USB. The phrase, I thought I could fix it before you knew. Before I knew what? For the first time since she left, I considered the possibility that Clay wasn't the only one keeping secrets. That maybe Paige had done something, or been part of something, before I ever met her. Something she never confessed. Something she was trying to correct. I felt sick. I needed air. I walked out of the apartment and didn't stop until I reached the park down the street. I sat on a cold metal bench under a broken streetlight, staring at the branches above like they might rearrange themselves into answers. That's when I saw the car. It was parked across the street. Gray sedan. No plates. The headlights were off, but the engine was running. I hadn't seen it when I left the apartment. I watched it for maybe 10 minutes, waiting for someone to get out. No one did. Then my phone buzzed. A new message. Unknown number. She's not yours to save. No name. No context. Just those 6 words. I stood up slowly, heart pounding so hard it hurt. When I turned back toward the car, it was gone. It had been 8 days. 8 days of silence, static, and too many versions of truth. I had stopped sleeping. Even when I tried, my body stayed alert, wired for noise that never came, for footsteps that never arrived. I started answering unknown calls with the speaker on, just in case someone else was listening too. I didn't expect it to end the way it did. It was a Tuesday, a completely ordinary Tuesday. Overcast sky, the kind where the light looks unsure of itself. I was folding laundry, her socks still in mix, which felt like some twisted joke, when there was a knock at the door. 3 soft taps. I froze. Not the cops. Not Jules. Not another mystery message shoved onto the mat. I opened it slowly, and there she was. Paige. Not dressed up. Not smiling. Not broken either. She looked quiet. That's the only word I can use. Like someone who had been underwater for a long time and was still deciding how to breathe again. For a moment, we just stood there. The world narrowed. My ears buzzed. All I could see were her hands, shaking slightly, and her eyes, red-rimmed but steady. She spoke first. I left for the wrong reasons, but I came back for the right ones. My throat tightened. She stepped inside slowly, almost like she was asking the apartment for permission. Her eyes swept the room, landing on small things. The blanket she always curled up in. Her favorite mug, untouched on the shelf. The photo on the fridge with our faces squished together in the sun. I didn't know how to tell you, she said, about the things before you. I thought if I kept it all buried, we could just start clean. But Clay knew how to dig. I didn't interrupt. He tried to scare me into coming back. Not for love, for silence. I played along just long enough to get something I could use. That USB. I left it on purpose. I needed you to find it in case I couldn't come back. Why didn't you just tell me the truth? I asked. My voice cracked on the last word. She looked down. Because you looked at me like I was good. And I didn't want to lose that. Silence stretched between us. I could feel the weight of everything unsaid pressing into my ribs. Then, finally, I asked the question that had haunted me every night. Did he hurt you? She shook her head. He wanted control, not bruises. Control leaves no evidence. I nodded slowly. She reached into her bag and pulled out the ring box. I kept this the whole time, she said, because despite everything, I still want to marry the man who saw me through the worst version of myself and didn't run. For the first time in days, I felt something shift. Not everything was fixed. Not everything was forgiven. But something opened, like air returning to a long-sealed room. I took the ring, not because I had all the answers, but because some things are worth rebuilding. We didn't say much after that. We just sat on the couch, holding hands like it was the only anchor we had. There would be therapy, conversations, hard months ahead, but she was back, on her terms, for the right reasons. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to, and somehow that made all the difference.